Just to recap for our viewers this story, so late on Friday afternoon it was revealed that a worker from a business that Bailey had visited as Small Business Minister laid a complaint that Bailey had sworn at him, called him a loser repeatedly and taunted him by making an L sign on his forehead with his finger and thumb at that business visit. Now, Andrew Bailey has apologised for the behaviour, but in the series of events, the first...
I bet you anything you like, he got the L the wrong way around. And how some people go, oh, loser, and they put it up when the L looks like to them the right way. So I bet you he put it up there, so he probably called him a J, actually, rather than an L, would be my guess.
The apology was only made to the business that the worker worked at through an email that was sent that was basically a thank you email for hosting him. It wasn't until that worker got back in contact with Bailey and other politicians, including the Prime Minister and members of opposition parties, that Bailey apologised to the worker himself. Now, Chris Hipkins is saying that that is not good enough and that Christopher Luxon is not applying the same ministerial standard to his ministers as he demanded of Chris Hipkins when he was the Prime Minister.
Oh, Christopher Hipkins, does that mean you're holding this government to the same level that they held you guys to? I've heard that somewhere before, Chewy, that standard of accountability. I wonder where I've heard that before.
And Luxon was in opposition.
I mean, I think clearly Andrew Bailey well and truly overstepped the mark here. And as a result, I think there should be some sanction for him, and removal from some of his portfolios would be an appropriate sanction, if not removal altogether.
When the issue was raised with him, he genuinely was mortified by that. He reached out immediately, apologised to the individual concerned. He subsequently apologised again to the individual concerned, apologised to me and reassured me it won't happen again. That to me says that he understands the gravity and the seriousness of not meeting those expectations that I have of ministers.
Now, the government will have been hoping that because this story broke late on a Friday afternoon that perhaps it will have died or run its course over the weekend. But there is a complication in that Andrew Bailey doesn't agree with the workers' version of events, but he still hasn't offered up his own version of events of what went down that day at the business. So still plenty more questions for Andrew Bailey to answer before this saga comes to an end.
Right, so let's just have a look at this footage. This is from last night's news, when they're kind of explaining, and they're trying to give Bailey the opportunity to actually explain what happens, and he won't.
He called me a loser repeatedly, saying the reason I was still at work was because I am a loser. He turned to the group of people with him at the time, including my boss, and formed an L with his fingers on his forehead.
Did you call him a loser?
Look, there are issues with, obviously people have different perceptions about what went on.
That's not a strong answer.
That's not a no. That's not a no. I didn't say that.
You're in Luxon's office going, oh, for God's sake, answer the question.
Obviously people have different perceptions about what went on, but I don't want to...
I like this. No. Different perceptions. He said I held an L up. It was actually a J. If you look really carefully, it was a J. It was not an L. Certainly wasn't that.
He was a worker, not the owner, so it was this.
Different perceptions about what went on, but I don't want to get into who said what or what.
The man says the minister and others left, but then Bailey returned twice, insisting the worker come and have a drink. He refused.
I did not have any intent to say to him anything that was offensive, but obviously he's come to that view, and for that reason I've unreservedly apologised.
The staff member claimed...
But not explaining what he's apologising for. So he's apologised, but he refused to explain to the media exactly what he's apologising for, Chewy. It just gets worse for these guys.
It's one of the best apologies. It shows true reflection on what happened. What a bizarre story. What an absolutely bizarre story. Now, the only place that I can get to with this is that he was trying to be jokey. But for a joke to work, both parties need to understand that it's a joke.
Yeah.
And it's just when you write it down, that does not sound good at all. And then he's come back a couple of times to try and salvage something that he realizes has gone very badly for him.
Yep.
And it's just made it worse. What the fuck?
I've got one other part that I want to add to this. It's a bit of fun. You ready? You may not have heard of this guy before. He kind of resembles a mound of melting pancake batter. He's a dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Now on Friday,
to fabricate. For fuck's sake, this man.
On
Jesus.
Friday, hang on. This is there's a interesting perspective here. On Friday, the more I read, the more clear it becomes that Andrew Bailey's story is a fabricated, beat up, put together by an activist worker, opposition political operatives, and the biased mainstream media. And when I saw that come across my Twitter feed, I went, I wonder if anything about that opinion has anything to do with this story about Sean Plunkett that came out, what, a year ago? A bit more than a year ago? Because it feels like if you are the kind of person that berates your staff and slams your hands on the desk, then maybe you'd think calling someone a loser is not that big a deal. Just to remind people, employee alleges broadcaster Sean Plunkett yelled at her punched desk. An editor at the new media startup The Platform says she was yelled and sworn at by founder Sean Plunkett before he punched a desk standing just a metre in front of her. But while Plunkett largely accepts what he described as appalling behaviour, he rejects the personal grievance claim lodged by digital engagement editor and everybody's best friend Annie O'Brien, who says she feels the workplace is too unsafe to return to and lacks sound dispute resolution processes. Both Plunkett and O'Brien gave evidence before the Employment Relations Authority on Thursday and Friday. In Wellington on Thursday and Friday. The full picture of the claim isn't yet clear, with a 2-day hearing, listening to testimony only. Submissions from both sides are to be made at a later hearing. I just thought when I saw someone thinking that, berating, abusing, even if you think it's jokey, a worker at a business that you're visiting might be defended by someone who thinks that berating and swearing at a staff member themselves is an acceptable way to operate. Just some thoughts there, Chewy.
Isn't it just something that seems to be quite prevalent in a certain generation? I am still to this day shocked that Sean Plunkett would bully a woman. It seems very out of character for him.